Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most talked about new releases in the flight sim world, SayIntentions.AI's AI Living World. I have an epic full flight from Paris to Rome in a 777-300ER to share with you, possibly the best and most complete simulated flight I've ever experienced, and we'll talk about the outsized role that SayIntentions played in enhancing that experience. But before we get there, I wanted to take a moment to assess where we are with SayIntentions in general. And I should note, for the record, I have no relationship with SayIntentions. I am simply a normal paying premium subscriber and have been for quite some time. For those unaware, SayIntentions.AI's AI Living World is the next generation traffic injection system for Microsoft Flight Simulator that brings dynamic, AI-controlled aircraft into the sim, and concretely, each injected aircraft behaves as an independent entity, following realistic ATC instructions, adapting to live weather, and using real-world flight schedules and gate assignments. Now, Brian Schillebarger, CEO of SayIntentions, would likely remind us at this point that AI Living World is a rapidly evolving, cutting-edge project that remains in beta to this day, which means we shouldn't expect everything to work. AI Living World dropped for premium subscribers only a couple of weeks ago, and we should treat it as the beta it is, and I couldn't agree more with him. But nonetheless, this product is already deservedly stirring up quite a buzz across the Reddit sphere, AvSim, Discord, and the entire flight sim community at large. So let's break it down, what's working well at this juncture, and what still needs some work. And we'll start with the good. I'll just go down the list here. Regional accents have been a feature of SayIntentions really from the beginning, but they continue to play an increasingly important role in enhancing immersion as injected traffic becomes more prevalent over the pre-recorded human chatter that was previously more predominant. And the regional accents overall are spectacular, with a few exceptions that I'll note later. They are relatively and increasingly diverse and accurate to the injected carrier, and they greatly enrich the experience. And I know some people have disabled the pre-recorded chatter, but I really felt that the pre-recorded stuff helped mitigate some of the deficiencies of the premium voices, which is something I'll also touch on later. The comms were well placed and appropriate. I've observed some issues with inordinately long taxi instructions at some airports in which all lettered and numbered taxiways are read out in sequence by the controller, but that's really a separate issue. In general, given the scale and volume of the injected traffic, the seamless integration is really quite remarkable and is really a tribute to the SayIntentions team's delivery of a pretty solid, scalable framework that obviously unifies multiple AI model types and techniques. The other thing that impressed me was simply the general appearance of traffic, both on the ground and in the sky, although particularly in the air. I encountered so many aircraft, which you'll see in the upcoming flight footage if you stay long enough, whose path intersected or ran parallel to my own, and they always did so in an appropriate altitude and with frequencies in contrast to even some of the real-time traffic injection tools that reflect real-life data, like FSLTL. And the general behavior of these aircraft is pretty unimpeachable and realistic from my uneducated, unlicensed perspective, with a few exceptions. And a couple of things that are not specific to AI Living World, but that have been high-performing aspects of SayIntentions from the beginning. One of those is voice recognition, particularly when I fly in Europe. I purposely mix the American English dialect that I'm using right now, for instance, with regional European dialect or even other languages. As an example, I'll pronounce Air France, Air France, or I'll say bonjour, bonsoir, buongiorno, buona giornata, buonasera, grazie, hola, gracias, buenos dias, guten Tag, guten Flug, calimera, all those things. And although I'm sure we all take it for granted, I can't think of a single time when SayIntentions failed to understand all these unpredictable variations, despite the fact that other well-known software like Alexa or Siri routinely make mistakes, even when I'm speaking highly purposeful and standardized English. And the LLM quality has done nothing but improve over time. It's highly adaptive to my prompts. It handles even the most challenging of diverse inputs, and it constructs scenarios on the fly in ways that never cease to amaze me. And I think you'll see a glimpse of that in the footage I'll show later. Now let's talk about some areas in which I expect that AI living world will continue to evolve in the near term. The first is the volume of traffic on the ground, or let's just say on or around airports, which includes departing, arriving, and taxiing traffic. I cranked the injected traffic volume settings all the way up to 11, which is the max, and began flights during what essentially constitutes rush hour at some of the busiest airports in the world. And I was never lined up for takeoff behind more than one, maybe two aircraft max. The behavior of the injected aircraft on taxi was also routinely irregular. Even at some of the largest airports in the world, I observed or was often behind traffic behaving quite bizarrely, swerving, taxiing on the grass, stopping unexpectedly in the absence of ATC instructions, or traffic on the same taxiway traveling nose to nose in the opposite direction, which resulted essentially in a game of chicken that ATC was unable to resolve. The aircraft were always quite well spaced, but at busier airports, especially on arrival, I would have expected to hear instructions or be instructed to take spacing-related mitigative measures like reducing my speed or changing my heading in response to other traffic, which I have yet to experience. And part of that may be attributable to the aforementioned issue of simply lower than expected traffic volumes, both departing and arriving. And for those who are unaware, the liveries for injected aircraft are sourced directly from whatever you've added to your community folder. In my case, I have FSLTL liveries installed, which provide fairly good performance for fairly good textures. For some reason, though, I encountered some fairly rare liveries with far greater frequency than one would expect. Specifically, I saw Southwest Lone Star 1, which is a singleton aircraft, at I think every single U.S. airport I visited, and I also saw quite a few TWA heritage liveries on American Airlines planes, which I haven't really seen in real life. I noticed streamers and other content creators encountering similar traffic with similar frequency. On a totally separate note, I'm also fairly certain I heard the Cactus call sign at one point, which is, of course, a former call sign of America West and later U.S. Airways before it merged with American in 2015. Another topic is runway assignments. There were a couple of instances, one of which was on the Paris-Rome flight I'll actually be playing for you in a moment, in which the anticipated landing runway was switched before arrival. Now, switching from, for instance, runway 16 to 34, in this case, is quite common for meteorological or some other operational reasons, but what I found odd was that, and again you'll see this in the video, oftentimes these runway changes result in quite unfavorable tailwinds. In the case of the Paris-Rome flight, I was also given a landing runway that wasn't even compatible with the published arrival star that I was asked to fly, which required me to initiate a request for some additional vectoring to position me to fly the visual correctly. And oftentimes, I would learn of the updated runway assignment during the arrival briefing from the first officer, seemingly out of nowhere instead of from ATC, which would often relay the updated runway information at a very late stage of the flight. And that forced me to begin proactively asking ATC for the runway information earlier in the descent, both for practical planning reasons and also simply making for a more realistic sequence of events and chain of information sharing. And now for some general opportunities for SayIntentions that are not specific to the AI Living World product, but rather are more general things that have presented themselves over time. Most of these are long-standing topics of discussion. The premium voices often sound surprisingly robotic or at least synthetic to me, which is surprising given the proliferation of very realistic AI voiceovers across a diversity of media these days, including your average TikTok video. There are regional inconsistencies as well, and I'll provide some examples of this later, but generally speaking, the accents don't always match the air carrier, even when the region in question, like say Europe, has been served by say intentions for quite some time. And the fact that a country like Germany, for instance, features a diversity of accents and ethnicities is not lost on me, but I feel like these deficiencies in regional accents, when they occur, are quite obvious and can come across in a quite sudden and jarring way. The delay time between a prompt and a response is obviously a long-standing issue that has greatly improved over time, but still varies and can at times present an unrealistic experience. A delay in ATC communications is one thing, but when communicating with a crew member sitting right next to you in the flight deck, it merits less grace. The crew announcements are great, but at times they can be redundant or incongruent for the phase of flight, and I'm sure there are ways to mitigate this by volume adjustments, but I feel like there's a tendency, particularly in cruise, when ATC chatter can be quite sparse. But just when a cabin announcement begins, it's immediately eclipsed and overtaken by a barrage of ATC comms. And vectoring and descent instructions in general have vastly improved over time, but inconsistencies and irregularities remain, and I'll leave it at that. The vectoring in the full flight video footage later in this video was actually okay, albeit imperfect, although the rest of the arrival, as previously noted, was blemished by other issues. Now let's move on to the SayIntentions flight I conducted, recorded in VR, and will present to you in just a few moments. Here are some excerpts of the flight plan, which was flown in the PMDG 777-300ER as Air France 1404 Heavy from Paris Charles de Gaulle to Rome Fiumicino. 699 nautical miles en route, cruising at 39,000 feet with a cost index of 134. 47,000 pounds of fuel loaded with an estimated en route burn of 25,000 pounds plus another 1,400 during taxi. And the routing is listed there at the bottom. Departing Paris from runway 9 right, flying the Okazi 6 kilo departure via Okazi, arriving with the LCAP 3 Alpha via the LCAP transition, expecting 16 left. Although, as mentioned, we ended up with the opposite runway despite the strong tailwinds. Here's an overview of the route, flying south-southeast from Paris over the Alps, entering the Mediterranean just to the east of Monaco, passing the island of Corsica, and then down the western coast of Italy towards Rome. And here are the charts for the SID and the star. Nothing remarkable about the Okazi 6 kilo out of Paris. The LCAP 3 Alpha arrival into Fiumicino is more of a fishbone or zigzag pattern, and there are a lot of speed constraints with no accompanying altitude constraints explicitly stated in the procedure. And since the 777 FMC doesn't allow speed constraints without an altitude constraint, unlike the 737, the speed-only constraints won't load as part of the automated route request functionality and must therefore be manually entered along with dummy or made-up placeholder altitude constraints. Now let me quickly cover some of the highlights describing why this was perhaps the best simulated flight I've ever experienced. This was an extremely smooth flight operationally, requiring the seamless integration and nearly flawless operation of MSFS, SayIntentions, the PMDG 777-300ER, GSX, and of course virtual reality, which is quite demanding, with the Pimax Crystal Light, and nothing significant occurred that negated the beauty and unadulterated pleasure of this 3-hour experience. SayIntentions is incredible in so many ways, but the crew interaction on this flight was particularly impeccable. The cabin announcements were timely, topically appropriate, never repetitive or stale, and I threw a lot, particularly at the flight attendant, Laura. Turbulence, weather updates, pointing out scenery along the route, beverage requests, even a destination dinner invitation, and the responses were always consistent in tolerance and character and significantly enhancing immersion. This was the first time I'd flown the PMDG 777-300ER in quite some time. I actually hadn't flown it since some of the enhancements from the 200 were incorporated into the 300, specifically the sounds. From the whine of the engines to the buttons and switches and even the flaps, these sounds hit all the right marks and threatened immediately to supplant the 737 as my favorite aircraft in the sim, which is completely unexpected given that I tend to gravitate away from fly-by-wire aircraft. And in general, I must admit that although I dislike many things about Airbus, I have to also admit that I admire the purity of their fly-by-wire implementation. Nonetheless, I found the 777-300ER was a joy to hand fly so long as you kept the auto throttle engaged. The regional accents were overall outstanding in this flight. If you haven't flown in Europe recently with SayIntentions, particularly with the introduction of AI Living World, I highly recommend it. The diversity of accents matched mostly correctly to airlines greatly enhances the experience, and there are all sorts of flourishes. These comms like bonne journée and salut pilote en France, and buongiorno and buonasera in Italy. The VR performance on this flight was remarkably good. All too often, especially in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you are bound to encounter stutters at some phase of flight or lag, often when you want them the least, like on Final. But on this flight, high frame rates were sustained for the full 3-hour experience, despite the addition of traffic injection. And what an amazing route we flew, showcasing the Alps, the Italian coast, and everything in between as the magical pre-dusk golden hour drew near, culminating in a sunset approach into Rome. And I must say that when SayIntentions introduced the AI Copilot, I declined to use it at first as I prefer to make my own radio calls. But now I've become accustomed to handing off the comms to the FO on takeoff, reassuming them generally above 10,000 feet or at least before reaching cruise, and then relinquishing them again on the descent as we approach 10,000 feet, which allows me to focus on hand flying in critical phases of flight, on the climb out, and on approach. Now, despite the wonders of AI ATC and PMDG, what could have gone better? Well, there are lots of minor, shall we say, inconsistencies in ATC communications in every flight, and this one was no different. They are mostly minor momentary phrasing lapses and therefore almost impossible to enumerate. But as an example, in this flight, I unintentionally introduced an inconsistency by forgetting to use the heavy suffix in my call sign, Air France 1404 Heavy. In my initial few calls to clearance and ground controllers, I then tried to correct this in subsequent calls, and for the rest of the flight, even when I'd initiate communication with the heavy designation, the following calls from ATC would often omit it, although the inclusion of heavy was still sporadically included throughout. The cruise communication was wonderful, as I'd mentioned, but their accents were a different story. I'm fairly certain I'd chosen French crew members both in the cabin and in the flight deck, but frankly, neither of them sounded that French, in contrast to the French ATC controllers, which were almost a linguistic caricature of French accented English. Moreover, once I began communicating with Italian ATC halfway through the flight, although the first couple of controllers had seemingly fairly accurate accents, the accents grew less Italian over time, which is odd because my recollection from dealing with Italian SayIntentions controllers in the past is that much like the French controllers, they are quite Italian. I mentioned the inconsistency with the landing runway earlier. On short final, I recall experiencing a tailwind of possibly 20 plus knots, which had calmed to something around 10 knots at touchdown if memory serves. And again, the star was simply not a match for the assigned runway. Well, speaking of chatter, I think that's enough. I've made a bold claim that this may have been the best or at least most enjoyable simulated flight I've ever experienced, thanks to the excellence of add-ons like PMDG and SayIntentions. So now I present to you, without further ado, Air France 1404 from Paris to Rome. Enjoy.
Go clearance, bonjour, Air France 1404 at stand Lima 53, 777-300ER requesting IFR clearance to Rome Fiumicino, and we have information Oscar.
Clearance on request, stand by. Air France 1404, information Oscar is current. Clear to Rome Fiumicino via the Oca Storia 6 kilo departure runway, Nina right. Initial climb to 10,000 feet. Departure on 1190.85 squawk 1000.
Clear to Fiumicino via the Oca 6 kilo departure, departing runway 9er right. The initial climb is to flight level 100, departure on 119.85, and we're squawking 1000. Air France 1404.
Air France 1404, read back correct. Contact ground on 121.61 when ready.
Ground on 121.61. Air France 1404, good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Air France Flight 1404.
Charles de
departing
Gaulle,
from
clearance
Paris to
Air
Rome.
France
Please take your
144,
seats as
seal,
indicated on your
request
boarding
clearance
passes
IFR
and
to
store your hand
Amsterdam,
luggage in the overhead bins
information kilo.
or under the seats in front of you.
I'll have
If you
your
require
clearance in
any
just a second.
assistance, do not hesitate to contact our crew.
Easy
Thank you.
157, spacious Sierra.
Double clearance, quality 4 kilo uniform request, IFR clearance to Helsinki.
Charles de Gaulle clearance, Air France 2. Charles de Gaulle clearance, Air France 203, good morning. Request EFR clearance to Oscar Mike Delta Bravo with information. Sierra.
Double clearance, Air France 067, requesting IFR clearance to Echo Foxtrot Hotel Kilo, information hotel on board. Clear to Helsinki via the Nurm 5 Alpha departure, runway 27 left, initial climb, flight level 60, 124, descent 355 on departure, squawk 6145 for Air France 067.
De Gaulle clearance, good day. Request IFR clearance to Madrid Barajas with information Lima, Tater 901 Kilo.
To requesting IFR clearance to Gardemont, we have information Bravo on board.
We'll be departing from runway 9er right. We'll be flying the Oca 6 kilo departure with an initial climb clearance to 10,000. Transition altitude is 5,000. After takeoff, we'll follow the SID profile, climbing to flight level 240. In the event of an engine failure below 400, we'll continue straight ahead and follow ATC instructions and apply maximum braking. After V1, we'll continue the takeoff, handle the emergency, and communicate. I think we're ready to go, Captain.
I concur. Merci, Franck.
Merci, Marsh. Let's contact ground for taxi clearance when you're ready.
Bonjour, Laura. Are we all ready to go back there?
Captain Marsh W13, we are ready to go back there. Cabin crew, please ensure all passengers are seated.
Charles de Gaulle's delivery, good evening, the flight
Laura, we're planning to push back in just a couple of minutes.
Okay, Captain. We will prepare for pushback shortly.
De Gaulle ground, bonjour. Air France 1404 Heavy at Lima 53. Ready for the push and start.
Air France 1404, De Gaulle ground, push and start approved. Face east.
Push and start approved. Face east. Air France 1404 Heavy.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback. Departure checks completed. Bypass inserted. Locking gear. Release parking brakes, please.
Parking brakes released.
Starting push. All engines clear. Start at wheel.
Copy that. Starting engine number 2.
Cabin crew, all doors in flight and cross-check. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Air France Flight 1404, departing from Paris to Rome. Flight time is 1 hour
Air France
and 37
904,
minutes.
Delta Zulu,
Insert the metal
Del
tip
Tango
into the
9er,
buckle
RT11,
while on the strap to
RT11,
tighten.
Echo,
To
Bravo,
release, simply lift
QB12,
the
Bravo
buckle.
1.
In the event of a loss of pull it over your head and inflate
Starting
it by
engine
pulling the
number
red
1.
tabs. In the event of an aircraft evacuation, please leave your luggage on board. Your safe
Three one two one five.
which may be behind you. As we prepare for departure, we remind you that Air France is shifting to a buy-on-board model for short-haul flights. You can enjoy a croquet monsieur for €7 or la durée macarons for €8, payable by credit, debit card, or flying Blue Miles. Thank you for your attention, and we wish you a pleasant flight.
Cedarjet 230, request pushback.
Cedarjet 230, clear for push and start.
Pushback approved. Cedarjet 230.
Please set parking brakes.
Parking brake set.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Voilà, confirmé. Two good starts. Clear to disconnect. Merci.
Unlocking gear.
Cedarjet 230, taxi to runway 9 right, via Papa 2, Tango, Echo 2, Romeo, Foxtrot, Romeo November 1, November, Bravo, Bravo Delta 1, Delta 1.
2, Tango Echo 2, Romeo, Foxtrot, Romeo, November 1, Delta 1, Cedarjet 230.
Bypass Parma.
Air France 81 Golf November, request pushback.
To go ground, Air France 1404 Heavy, pushback from stand Lima 53 on Echo 8, ready for taxi.
Air France 1404, taxi to runway 9 right, via Echo 8, Romeo, Foxtrot, Romeo November 1, November, Bravo, Bravo Delta 1, Delta 1. Contact tower on 118, decimal 655, when ready for departure.
Taxi to 9er right via Echo 8, Romeo, Foxtrot, Romeo, November, November 1, Bravo, Bravo Delta 1, Delta 1, and tower on 118.655, Air France 1404 Heavy. Merci. Cabin is ready. Parking brake off, commencing taxi.
Alpine 965 Foxtrot, taxi to parking via Quebec 2, Quebec QB 12, Bravo 2.
Laura, just to let you know, we might have a few bumps on departure.
Understood, Captain. I will inform the crew to prepare for potential bumps during departure.
I'll let you know as soon as it's safe to move about the cabin. It'll probably be when we reach 20,000 feet or so, but I'll certainly make an announcement. Merci, Laura.
Understood, Captain. I will inform the crew and ensure that the passengers are aware to remain seated until the seatbelt sign is turned off.
Lufthansa 656, push and start approved, face east.
De Gaulle ground, Lufthansa 656, request taxi.
Air France 81 Golf, November contact tower on 118.1.
Over to tower, Air France 81 Golf November. Push and start.
Lufthansa 2 Foxtrot, cleared for push and start.
Pushback approved. Lufthansa 2 Foxtrot.
Can you send a follow me car and take me to the stand KLM 207?
KLM 207, follow me car on the way. Please follow the path for guidance to your stand. We'll send a truck to guide you.
It looks like we're third in line for takeoff.
Understood, Captain. I will inform the crew.
Air Algerie 1234, contact ground on 121.61.
To go ground, Air France 1404 Heavy, on Bravo, holding short of Bravo Delta 1 behind a stopped company A320.
Air France 1404, hold position. Expect further instructions shortly.
Ground Air Algerie 1234, taxi to the ramp.
Holding short, expecting further instructions shortly. Air France 1404 heavy.
Air Algerie 1234, taxi to parking via Zulu.
Duro ground, Lufthansa 1034. Request taxi to stand Sierra 17.
De Gaulle Tower, bonjour. Air France 1404 heavy on Delta 1, holding short of Niner right, ready for departure.
Air France 1404, heavy, De Gaulle Tower, runway 9 right, hold short, you're number 1 behind the C series.
Holding short behind the C series, Air France 1404 heavy.
Air France 1404, heavy, De Gaulle Tower, runway 09 right, winds 200 at 9er, cleared for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff, 9er right, Air France 1404 heavy. Flight attendants, please take seats for departure.
Understood, Captain. Cabin crew, take seats for departure.
Stabilize, Togo.
Transavia 559er, contact Paris ground on 121.61.
First speed alive. Takeoff thrust set.
Shell De Gaulle Tower. Transavia 559er, spectate to the runway.
V1.
Taxi to the parking. Transavia 559er.
Air France 53 November Quebec, ready for push and start.
Air France 53 November Quebec, cleared for push and start.
Push and start approved. Air France 53 November Quebec.
You got the comms.
Merci, Marsh. I'll handle the comms from here.
Laps 1.
Air France 1404, contact departure on 119.85.
Switching to departure on 119.85. Air France 1404.
Laps up.
De Gaulle departure, Air France 1404. Evening climbing past 3500.
Air France 1404, heavy, De Gaulle departure identified, climb flight level 100.
Climbing flight level 100. Air France 1404. Heavy.
Standard altimeter 5,000.
Air France 1404, climb flight level 230.
Climbing flight level 230. Air France 1404.
November 6 Sierra Bravo.
Boeing 6 Sierra Bravo, contact early approach on 123.875.
050 November 6 Sierra Bravo. 75 November 6 Sierra Bravo.
Air France 1404, contact Paris control on 128.105.
Switching to Paris control on 128.105. Air France 1404. Paris control, Air France 1404. Evening, climbing to flight level 080 for flight level 230.
Air France 1404, Paris control identified. Bonsoir pilote.
Dear guests, you have just reached a safe altitude, and you are now permitted to use your electronic devices. Please ensure they are in airplane mode. Additionally, our onboard Wi-Fi service is now available for your convenience. Thank you for your attention.
Air France 1404, Paris Control, climb flight level 290.
Climbing flight level 290, Air France 1404.
Engaging autopilot.
Going to 119.85, Mike Oscar 78.
Zero, Air France 1404. Marsh, you've got the comms now.
Laura, est-ce que je pourrais prendre un petit café?
Understood, Captain. I will arrange for a latte for you.
Paris Control, KLM 34 Bravo, flight level 320.
04 Alpha, flight level 400.
Lufthansa 04 Alpha, radar contact.
Lufthansa 859, request descent to flight level 050.
Laura, the air up here is relatively smooth right now at 30,000 feet, and we anticipate a pretty smooth ride until we reach the Alps, just before we cross the Mediterranean into Italy. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the fasten seat belts at this time, but just make sure everyone remains seated with their seat belts fastened when they can.
Understood, Captain. I will inform the crew and ensure
Air
that
France
the passengers
473 contact plane approach on 118.05 D.
KLM 42 Yankee, flight level 400.
Yankee, radar contact.
Flight level 230, descending flight level 090, good evening.
Hi, Laura. We're reaching our cruising altitude now, and we'll remain in cruise for the next 45 minutes or so.
Understood, Captain. I will inform the crew and prepare for the next announcement. This is your flight attendant speaking. We have reached cruising altitude as well as the exquisite La Durée macarons for €8. Please have your credit or debit cards ready for payment. After our service, we will also have articles from the Air France shop available for purchase. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, Laura. Frank and I were thinking about going out for pizza tonight after we land in Rome. Would you be interested in joining us?
Thank you for the invitation, Captain, but I must decline. I have other plans for the evening.
C'est dommage, Laura, but perhaps next time.
Understood, Captain. Thank you.
Bonjour, Air France 1404 Heavy with a request.
Air France 1404, say your request.
Air France 1404 Heavy requesting descent to flight level 380 due to weight and balance concerns.
Air France 1404, descend flight level 380.
Descending flight level 380, Air France 1404 Heavy. Thanks for your help. Hi, Laura. Our new cruise altitude is going to be 38,000 feet. We are not descending into Rome yet, but I just wanted to let you know that we'll be at this new altitude for the next 40 minutes or so.
Understood, Captain. I will inform the crew and prepare for the next announcement.
Control, please 25 Sierra Hotel, request flight level 350, please.
Air France 1404, contact Paris Control on 125.45.
Contacting Paris Control on 125.45, Air France 1404 Heavy. Paris Control, bonjour, Air France 1404 Heavy with you at flight level 380.
Air France 1404, Paris Control, identified. Bonsoir.
For flight level 210.
Air Nostrum 11 November Yankee radar contact.
Shamrock 544, contact Marseille Control on 123.805.
Marseille Control 123.805, Shamrock 544.
Air France 1404, Paris Control, contact Marseille Control on 126.705.
Off to Marseille Control on 126.705, Air France 1404 Heavy. Bonne journée. Marseille Control, bonjour, Air France 1404 Heavy at flight level 380.
Air France 1404, Marseille Control, identified. Salut pilote.
Hi Laura, in just a few minutes we'll be starting to cross over the Alps, so there'll be incredible views really from both sides of the aircraft. A relatively clear day without much cloud cover over the mountains, but I also wanted to let you know we could experience a little turbulence, and if it becomes more significant, I'll certainly turn on the fasten seatbelt signs, and I'll keep you apprised of any developments in that respect. Just wanted to let you know.
Understood, Captain. I will
Marseille
inform the
Control,
crew about the
Lufthansa
potential
41 Yankee,
turbulence
flight
and the
level
beautiful
170.
views over the Alps.
Zulu Golf, contact Marseille Control on 128.325.
Marseille Control on 128.325, easy to Zulu Golf, goodbye.
Ryanair 902 Hotel, November contact Milan radar on 134.175.
Switching to Milan radar on 134.175. Ryanair 902 Hotel November.
Marseille Control, Air France 1404 Heavy, requesting climb to flight level 390.
Air France 1404, climb flight level 390.
Climb flight level 390, Air France 1404 Heavy. Merci. Alright, just thought I'd let you know we've climbed back up to 39,000 feet. We should be descending in another 30 minutes or so. I'll give you a call as the descent draws closer and pass along some information about our arrival. Merci.
Understood, Captain. Thank you for the update. I will inform the crew.
Milan radar, Ryanair 86 uniform, Yankee, flight level 330.
Scandinavian 72 uniform, radar contact. Air France 1404, contact Milan radar on 134.175.
Contacting Milan radar on 134.175, Air France 1404 Heavy. Buongiorno. Milano radar, buongiorno, Air France 1404 Heavy, with you at flight level 390.
Air France 1404, Milan radar identified. Buonasera. Air France 1404, Milan radar. Expect the LK3 Alpha arrival. I'll start your descent in about 20 minutes.
Expecting the LK3 Alpha arrival in approximately 20 minutes. Air France 1404 Heavy.
Eurowing 7 Zulu Golf, Milan radar. Contact Marseille Control on 127.905.
127.905, Eurowing 7 Zulu Golf.
Hi Laura, we'll be descending in approximately 15 minutes, so I thought I'd provide you some information about our arrival that you can pass along to our passengers if they're interested. Weather in Rome is relatively balmy, 24 degrees Celsius. Winds are out of the southeast at about 7 miles per hour. There's a layer of broken clouds at 16,000 feet, and we will be arriving in approximately 40 minutes or so. We'll be crossing into the Mediterranean in just a few minutes, and you may want to advise our passengers that there could be a nice view of the French Riviera, Monaco, Nice off the right side of our aircraft, and then off the left you'll see the Italian city of Genoa. We'll be passing just to the east of Corsica, so there'll be a nice view off the right side of the aircraft as we approach the western coast of Italy on our approach into Rome. Thanks so much. See you on the ground.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your flight attendant speaking.
Alpine 7908 Alpha contact, nice approach on 120.16.
As we approach our destination,
Milan radar, Alpine 62 Golf Echo, flight level 390.
from the right side
Alpine
of the
62 Golf Echo, radar contact.
views of the Italian city of Genoa. We will be passing just to the east of Corsica, so keep your cameras ready for some beautiful sights as we approach the western coast of Italy. Thank you.
Laura, we're going to start our descent in another 3 or 4 minutes. Just wanted to let you know.
Understood, Captain. I will prepare for the descent announcement.
Milan radar, Air France 1404 Heavy at flight level 390, requesting to start our descent.
Air France 1404, contact Rome radar on 119.2.
Descending flight level 300 and off to Rome radar on 119.2. Air France 1404 Heavy, buona serata. Rome radar, buonasera, Air France 1404 Heavy, out of flight level 390, descending flight level 300 on the Elka 3 arrival.
Air France 1404, Rome radar identified. Good evening.
To Rome. Please return to your seats, stow your tables, and fasten your seat belts. The usage of lavatories is no longer allowed at this time. Thank you for your cooperation.
Rome radar, Peter 2901, request direct to Echo Oscar for 12.
Air France 1404, descend flight level 210.
Descending flight level 210, Air France 1404 Heavy.
Ryanair 35 Hotel Foxtrot, radar contact. Air France 1404, descend flight level 090.
Descending to 9000, Air France 1404 Heavy.
Roma Condor 82, shortcut for me, please.
Condor 82, roger. Continue on your current heading and maintain flight level 350.
Rome radar for Air France 1404 Heavy. Which runway can we expect at Fiumicino?
Air France 1404, expect runway 34 left for arrival.
Expecting 34 left, Air France 1404 Heavy.
Air France 1404, contact Rome on 123.225.
Off to Rome on 123.225, Air France 1404 Heavy. Buona serata. Rome, buonasera, Air France 1404 Heavy, out of flight level 230, descending flight level 090.
Air France 1404, Rome identified. Good evening.
Rome Military Center, Longship 41, flight level 300.
Fiumicino Tower, Emirates 994, RS, left.
Emirates 9er. Contact Fume Tower on 127.625.
We'll be arriving
Rome
in
Military
Rome,
Center,
Fiumicino,
Royal Air Maroc
on runway
941, Juliet 1000.
using the visual approach.
Royal Air,
We'll
Maroc
be flying the
941 Juliet.
L3 Charlie
Radar
arrival.
contact.
In the event of a missed approach, we'll follow the published missed approach procedure. Squawk code remains 1000, and approach frequency will be 125.5. We'll configure for landing with flaps 30. Final approach speed will be 135 knots. I think we're ready for the arrival, Captain.
Roma, buonasera, Condor 2, Flight Level 350.
Merci.
Con Roma, Condor tutti, saluta Serginio Gamer.
Air France 1404, contact Rome approach on 125.5.
Contacting Rome, approach on 125.5, Air France 1404 Heavy. Rome approach, buonasera, Air France 1404 Heavy, out of flight level 150, descending 090 on the LCAP 3 Alpha arrival.
Air France 1404 Heavy, Rome approach, identified south, expect a visual runway 34 left approach into Fiume.
Expecting the visual 34 left approach into Fiumicino. Air France 1404 Heavy. Grazie.
Taking over the comms now, Marsh.
Switching to Rome Military Center on 123.225. Ryanair 5 November uniform.
For landing ILS 34 left, line 316.
Hi, Laura. I'm turning on the fasten seatbelt signs now, and they'll remain on for the rest of the flight.
Understood, Captain. I will inform the passengers accordingly. Captain, cabin is ready. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now on our final approach into Rome. Please turn off your electronic devices and stow them until we arrive at the gate. Ensure your tray tables are put away, your seats are in the full upright position, and your seat belts are fastened. Thank you for your cooperation.
Rome approach, Air France 1404 Heavy, level at flight level 090 on the LCAP 3 Alpha arrival, is incompatible with approach instructions for runway 34 left, requesting updated arrival guidance or vectors.
Air France 1404, descend altitude 4000, maintain current heading 165 vectors for the visual runway 34 left approach.
Descending to 4000, maintaining heading 165 for vectors to the visual runway 34 left approach, Air France 1404.
That's one.
departure, Mistral wings 9-5, Foxtrot 2000 for 4000.
Air France 1404, turn left, heading 135.
Turning left, heading 135. Air France 1404.
Air France 1404, heavy 4 miles from the approach turn, turn left heading 055, descend altitude 3000 until established, cleared for the visual runway 34 left approach.
Cleared for the visual runway 34 left approach, Air France 1404.
Oops, 5. Localizer.
Departure, Speedbird 53902, 1000 for 4000.
Speedbird 539er, radar contact.
25. Climb 11, 1000, Speedbird 539er.
Flaps 15.
Air France 1404, contact Fume Tower on 127.625.
Switching to Fume Tower on 127.625. Air France 1404.
Flaps 30.
5.
Disengaged.
Fume Tower, Air France 1404. Evening, we're established on the visual approach for runway 34 left.
Air France 1404, heavy Fume Tower winds 130 at 6, runway 34 left, clear to land.
Runway 34 left, clear to land. Air France 1404, heavy.
Approaching minimums. Minimums.
Sync rate.
100. 50.
Glide slope.
20. 10.
Romeo.
Air France 1404, welcome to Fiume. Contact ground on 122.125.
Switching to ground on 122.125. Air France 1404s. ground, Air France 1404. Evening. We're clear of runway 34 left and ready to taxi to the gate.
Air France 1404, Fiume ground. Taxi to Terminal 1, Gate 304 via Alpha Delta. Alpha, cross runway 7, then Hotel November Charlie. Good day.
Please remain seated
Terminal
with your
1,
seatbelts fastened
Gate
until we reach our
304
final parking
via
position.
Alpha Delta.
Did you know
Alpha,
that Rome is
cross
home to the
runway
Colosseum,
7, then
the
Hotel
greatest works of
November
Roman
Charlie Air
architecture and
France
engineering?
1404.
Also, the city has over 280 fountains, including the famous Trevi Fountain. We appreciate your choice to fly with us today. The local time is 8:26 p.m. On behalf of Captain Marsh and First Officer Frank, as well as the entire crew, we wish you a pleasant stay in Rome.
Three-four left, via Juliet, Alpha Ryanair, 14 Alpha Tango.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare to disembark, please be reminded to have your
Ground
passports
Itaro
and any necessary
573, taxi to
documentation
the ramp.
ready for customs procedures.
Itaro 573, taxi to parking via Alpha Whiskey Kilo.
Thank you.
Attention all aircraft. Juliet now current QNH 1010.
Channel ground, Corsica 31, X-ray Lima, ready to taxi.
Corsica 31, X-ray Lima. Start and pushback approved. Face north.
Passengers deboarding starting.